Yes, Professor
My
Zanka.
first question is actually about the center, and I wanted to know how important a role does it play for all the mosques, let's say the north side of Chicago? Is it a real central mosque? And the turnout for the Friday sermon, is it one of the largest in the area? Or?
Absolutely. The Muslim Community Center is one of the oldest mosques in the Chicagoland area. I believe it is the largest mosque in the Chicago city, in the city itself. There are other mosques of comparable size in Villa Park, in Bridgeview, and on the south side also. And these have comparable sizes of people who attended. But the Muslim Community Center is one of the oldest, and I believe the largest in the city itself. Now, it is a true community center. We have all forms of community activities here, from religious activities, funerals, for example, marriages. We conduct marriages here. We also have a lot of social services here. On the weekends, this place is very bustling with a lot of social activities, with a lot of health programs, with a lot of educational programs. This facility also runs full-time Islamic schools. So students come and they are trained in how to memorize the Quran. You find kids as young as 12, 13, 14, 15 memorizing the Quran in its entirety. And then you have weekend and evening educational programs for youth, as well as educational programs for adults. Now, in addition to that, the MCC, this Muslim Community Center, networks with other organizations. We are engaged in a number of interfaith dialogues with different groups, and we are engaged in a lot of joint activities with the Albany Park Neighborhood Council, for example, as well as with other organizations. So some mosques you might find that it's mainly the prayers that they perform there, but here there's a bigger range of things. The prayer in itself is an institution that this is one of its purposes, is to help us establish communities. The fact that we have to meet very frequently during every day makes it inevitable that we would be able to establish some form of a community life in this mosque or in the center. I hope that answers your question. Yes?
Can you describe your vision of heaven and hell?
Well, heaven and hell is something which the Quran is one of perhaps the most graphic in terms of its description of heaven and hell. You don't find this in many other religions. Now, the Quran often uses a language that tells us, for example, that in heaven or in the garden, it calls it the garden, Jannah means garden, you will find in it rivers of milk and honey, gardens, couches, and what have you, whatever that your heart desires. Now, and the same way about hell, it talks about, a place of torment, of fire, and so on and so forth. How do we know exactly what heaven and hell is like? We cannot know that absolutely. The Quran and the traditions of the Prophet use languages that appeal to our paradigm, that appeal to our range of understanding, and to think of gardens beneath which rivers flow and everything that your heart may desire is something that is very pleasing, and it gives you an idea of an abode that is very pleasing and very comfortable and full of bliss for the human being. So generally, and actually the Prophet said that in it are things which the eye has never seen, the ear has never heard, the mind has never imagined. So to some degree, some things are just, described there so that we can relate with it. How do you describe Pulaski and North Elston Avenue to a fetus that is still in its mother's womb? You have to use a language that it can relate to. But the Quran does say that for everyone there will be their reward accordingly, male or female. One Bedouin came to the Prophet one time and asked him, what am I going to have in heaven? He says, you'll have anything that you wish for. He says, anything that I wish for? He says, yes. He says, wow. So if I want my camel, would I have my camel over there? He said, yeah, you'll have your camel, okay? So basically anything, it's a place where anything that we wish and desire for we will have. And when you die, it's just a change of address. You just change zip codes, but your new address is a place where the laws of nature are different than what you were used to in this life. So we don't go into minute details as to what exactly it looks like, but we have an idea that heaven is a place of happiness, of bliss, of no worry, of no more death, and hell is a place of torment and punishment. I hope that that answers your question. Yes?
Can you describe the prayer stances, like the bowing down, and like the different movements, like what the symbolism and what that indicates?
Well, I can describe some symbolism. However, the prayer itself is an act of worship. And when it comes to acts of worship and rituals in Islam,